You're live. You're not actually live. You might be live. Okay. Excuse me. Okay, I meant to do this video last year, and I guess never actually got around to it. And it's kind of inconvenient because when I first started doing these videos, I was doing a lot of slideshows and it was taking a lot of time. And so I have a lot of photos that I would like to include in this video, but I will have to put them in the community menu later, probably maybe today, maybe tomorrow. And I won't do an exhaustive load of all of those because a lot of them are Halloween costumes more than real Oktoberfest garments, if that kind of makes sense. Again, like I said in the header, I'm kind of covering European clothing styles here that don't exactly work great. Here it's going to be, the first day of summer, and, a matter of hours this afternoon here, and already having heat waves, so I won't be modeling the clothes, but I do have some photos from previous. And I bought most of these on Amazon a few years ago, so it was before all the supply chain issues. So the availability of some of these garments may have gone way down, and at the time the sizing was already kind of limited. So, and some of these, the sizing on the stickers doesn't necessarily match the sizing of United States sizing. I'm not sure how many of them are supposed to be US sizing and are just run small, and how many of them are just well, a couple of them are blatantly European sizing of some sort, because one pair is called 58 and one pair is called 60. And so, you're kind of flying blind with something like that, just using their guidelines. And we will be discussing accessories to a point, but I didn't load up on all the potential accessories, unlike the kilts. For those of you who have watched one or several of my kilt videos, you know that with kilts, there's a lot of kind of things that go with the outfits, but a lot of the rental companies and other marketers of Scottish traditional Highland wear and whatnot, they don't necessarily show you accurately what you should be wearing with kilt outfits for different scales of formality. So they'll show a guy with a tuxedo but also wearing a big hunkin' chrome buckle belt. You don't wear the chrome buckle belt with the tuxedo. It's it's too gaudy, it's too casual, stuff like that. With a lot of this stuff, I only have what I would consider casual, because when I first looked into this stuff, I was kind of like, well, it's a lot easier, or less expensive, I should say, to dress like a, Bavarian peasant than it is a Scottish laird, kind of funny. But then I found also some other kind of limitations, whereas a kilt is a little more forgiving in warm weather than leather pants, heavy duty leather pants, and also more forgiving in terms of what you can kind of pair with it. So I'll discuss that to a degree. And then some of the items you could even interchange to a point, but like a wide brimmed hat doesn't typically look good with a kilt, but a wider brim hat than this doesn't really look good with Lederhosen either, or it's not really traditional, that kind of thing. So what is completely traditional and all that, how deep you want to go and all that, you'll have to do your own kind of research, because like I said, I kind of went up to a point where I was comfortable with, spending this kind of money or dressing this kind of way. Some people will use the Lederhosen, for daily kind of workwear is what it's really originally meant for. I don't know if what you find on Amazon will necessarily be rugged enough to do all of that. Like I said, these are older pairs. What's available now might not be the same quality, and what was available then might still have its limitations. So like I said, so I never really kind of ended up. Also, for those of you who are new, I'm in California, where we don't have long autumns. Sometimes we don't have autumn at all, so it goes from like hot to, not necessarily freezing cold like Minnesota or someplace, but colder to where again, English style clothing suits me, I guess, more than some other heritage clothing or whatever, or English, UK, Scotland, Ireland. I don't know. So yeah, apart from photos, like I said, where I was doing this kind of research, trying to dial in the outfits and whatnot, I came up with some things that aren't necessarily heritage authentic, but should work okay with the basic garment. And we have to do this, okay, or else we're going to be really hating life in a few minutes. Okay. Now my other caveat, some of this stuff, I guess, just you could kind of mix and match, but typically with stuff on like Amazon, you're getting a lot of stuff with kind of theme embroidery. Same as if you buy Scottish stuff, then you'll know that like that chrome buckle has like a little thistle, or it has a little lion head, or it has some other kind of emblem that will match like a pin that you put somewhere, or maybe you can find a tie that has a printed motif of that. But usually most people, if they're wearing a tie, they'll wear a matching color or a tartan tie that goes with the tartan of the kilt, that kind of thing. So with this stuff, it's kind of the same, and how much traditional it all is, again, your results may vary. And some of them I was calling suede, or maybe they were called suede on the website, but I think they might be a rough out leather similar to like heavy duty work boots. So I think they're meant to be pretty durable. Let me start with a pair of those then that is less, excuse me, overboard. So these are a less refined material. And so you can see it has that kind of rough texture. And these are a short length, the typical Lederhosen. So here you've got your knife pocket with some embroidery that kind of matches some embroidery, down the placket. And you're supposed to be able to unbutton this to relieve yourself from the front. You can see where that buttonhole goes in it. Now this satin lining, similar to kilts, is going to be the kind of thing that's going to make you sweaty. I know it's getting increasingly difficult to find cotton underwear without polyester blend, but I imagine that it would be more absorbent than this next to the skin. Here you've got a little locker loop, same as same as a lot of the kilts. With kilts, they tell you to just basically cut this off and don't hang it with this. With this, I think I'd be a little less worried about the leather losing its shape than the pleats. These buttons are supposed to look like some kind of horn or bone, I imagine, but I'm sure they're plastic. And same as some kilt accessory stuff. They do have belt loops, so you can technically wear them with the belt and without the suspender placket deal. I imagine this might be a little uncomfortable, especially if the pants are too tight, where you're supposed to be able to adjust the sizing slightly here by letting out some of this material, this rawhide kind of stuff. It lasts until it doesn't, right? It ties until it, but it's just cordage. You could replace this with a shoestring, eventually if you had to. Here you've got a back pocket with a flap. I'm sure this is a modern convenience, not a traditional one. Here you've got a little leeway where you could unbutton your legs slightly for some articulation or whatever. Although how much you need to do that, I don't know. Then you've got some embroidery down the leg. Again, you've got the embroidery under the placket. You've got the embroidery. Okay, so that's kind of basically, here's your seam with exposed contrast. But not a terrible chunk of, you know, material. It's pliant enough that you can, you know, wear this. It has regular hand pockets, which again are probably not very traditional. Don't know. Like I said, how long before you bust out the seams? How easy this is to repair? I assume you would have to go to a leather guy or a shoe cobbler rather than a regular tailor, because the machine is not going to stitch that very easily. Made in Pakistan. They were pretty much all made in Pakistan. I can't really read this tag. It's very small. Indigo House something. Rayfoot. I guess that's the company that owns them in Deutschland. Lining 100% polyester, and then that says that in like 6 different languages. Yeah, it's really small tag. I can't read that. I would have to have a magnifying glass. Not so much because I'm blind as the light's in my eye and the print is really small. So those two things together make it really hard. But here it says, yeah, 44 on this tag, and I can barely get them on. So 44 is more like a 40. So yeah, when I got these, I think they fit a little better than they do now, but I can still wriggle into them. And again, the fabric is pretty soft, so it's not the worst experience. And I don't remember in which order I bought them, but I bought them all in about a week or two, probably at the time, thinking, oh, some of my buddies would want to, you know, play dress up and do whatever, and I'd have some extra things for them to, you know, try on and whatnot. So one of the things, though, like, I don't know how secure these buttons are, but it's not sewed with a standard needle and thread. I mean, if you wanted, like, to sew down a thing without the buttons and have the buckle come up from here, I think you might have a little more structural integrity. But then it could get costly because you'd have to find buckles that, you know, and add them and da-da-da. And it wouldn't be fancy probably like this. But they'd be lower down, so they could just be regular buckles. Like you might find on, what would you find those buckles on? I don't know. Monk strap shoes, maybe? I think you understand what I'm saying. But so, like I said, so this is supposed to match that other embroidery, and the actual design is just squiggly lines design, and yada, yada, yada. And then in the back, there's this very basic leather wrap. So again, not the most aesthetically pleasing thing, but also easy to kind of duplicate or replace, or, you know, you could find something that you could use tape if you had to, you know, adjust that. If you know, split this seam on, you know, or something on location. This was just what I folded under. It came that way. I don't remember. It probably came that way just to be less things flapping around. And so you can see in my photos where I have different plackets, different embroideries, different style of suspenders. So moving along, then here we have the black ones with the green, kind of a stag motif, and here we've got the light shining on it. Again, I'm not positive how accurate heritage color black is, but this is similar. They've put a little bit of colorful into the buttons, but the exact same suspender buckle deal. And then the design down the leg. You can see the buttons on the leg. Oh. but it's basically the exact same suede. Yeah, here instead we have 56. So I'm not positive it's the exact same company, but it does have the same satin interior, same belt loops. So what is 56 and 44? What's the difference? Don't know. Do these still fit? Maybe, but I remember these were a smaller size than some of the other ones, like I said. So sorry about that kind of boring, a little more boring of a presentation, but just to show you what's available in a similar fabric. These, on the other hand, oh yeah, okay. I thought I had a box with some other plackets and things, and I don't know where that went. But here we have a lot more of the busy sort of lions and flowers and things, and suspenders with, this says 42 for the sizing. And again, we have the exact same buckles as before. So again, don't know if these companies are making the same, or the same companies making this, but they're definitely getting them all supplied, some of their hardware and things, from the same places, even if they're not all the same company. But I forget. I have a couple pictures that show like the line of offerings from one company. And so some of these might all be that company, but one of them for sure, the next pair, I'll talk about in a minute. And this, okay, this is, yeah, the same suede or rough out, just in a darker brown. And here I've got a tag, genuine leather, which doesn't necessarily mean high quality leather, unfortunately. The good care of your leather wear, always keep on a hanger. When wet, allow to dry naturally. When soiled, use appropriate proprietary leather cleaner of purpose-made cleaning pad. Okay. 4, when cleaning is required, send to cleaner specializing in leather wear, suede leather with soft nap surface, brush gently after wear with soft bristle brush or sponge. So unlike boots where you have the hard bristle brass brush, don't use that on this. Grain leather with smooth surface, keep clean by occasional use of damp sponge followed by dry cloth. Okay, so that's nice. This one has a little tag. And so here you've got slightly different embroidery, the same buttons as the black pair. You've got your front placket, has a little bit more of a racing car royalty kind of thing, but basically the same stuff, the back. But here we've got a slightly different seam. Instead of the seam running down the seat, we've got a seam running horizontally across the seat. So which one of those will last longer, I don't know. Which one of those is better, I don't know. We've got the exact same brown satin as the first pair. And this one came with an extra button that I didn't get with all of them. So extra button for me. This design, so I can go with this pair or the black pair eventually. And okay, we'll have to do that. So then when we get to the full grain pair, one of these, I don't remember if it came with no placket, might have been. And I got these special suspenders separately that I talked about for a second. Yeah, this is a different style of suspenders that has no placket. So I thought these would go good with this pair that didn't come with a placket or something. And so it's got this kind of neat braided, same exact buckles, but kind of neat braided pattern. And it goes, and instead of hooking to the buttons, it hooks down in the front and or something instead. It hooks. I don't know. You'll see in the photo. I can't do it all here and present with the camera correctly. A bit too awkward, but it'll be fun putting all this stuff away later. But this one, I think this was the last pair I bought, and I was really disappointed because they had sent me the completely wrong embroidery. Still says 42, so what size that is, don't know. Somewhere around a 42. I hope I can wriggle into these, but you can see the texture now is much more of a rough leather, but not a suede leather, so it's been distressed a bit. But this was supposed to have a completely different belt buckle that had a stag motif, memory serves, and they sent me this, and it was supposed to be stags, and there's a photo I'll put in the community. You can see what I thought I was ordering versus what I got. The interior, now we don't have the satin inside at all. We've got just a leather texture. With kind of a suede inner crotch bit. We have a cloth pocket liner instead of a satin one. Yeah, the rear pocket also cloth lining instead of satin. Here, a little less rawhide for our adjustable things. How well this will knot up, I don't know. It's kind of, so I'm pretty sure this was a different company and not quite. Slightly different buttons, same type of button attachment to, again, the actual thing though, so not just hand stitched or machine stitched or whatever. This has this cloth kind of attachment, and then the belt, a kind of a thin, flimsy leather backed on another piece of leather, it feels like. Now, I was watching a Rick Steves video the other night, which kind of reminded me to do this video, and there was a guy wearing a pair of suspenders, and they looked like thick, like real beefy, like suspenders, and I imagine his pants might have been a little bit beefier than these two, but this is pretty thick. I can tell by feeling it, and it's not. Suede would be when you split these two ends and then put the suede side out, but I don't think that this is thicker than this. Maybe a little, not really. Yeah, a little bit, because both sides of this are sueded, but not by a ton. So I imagine that suede is slightly thinner than a work boot leather, but this is, you can see this is not as, forgiving as that. It's leather, and we just got one seam down the seat here again. No fancy alternate, and again the distressing with the dye job and whatnot to make it look more rustic or used or old timey or whatever. The peasant look. So again, if you're doing a more formal thing, maybe there's more formal versions available. But again, this is not the type I ordered. This is just the design I got, and I was too lazy to send them back after I complained because I didn't believe that they would send me the right ones or whatever. I forget if we had a conversation on the email or not, something like that. But again, this one with the belt that I think it might look slightly better with the belt loops to wear the belt and the suspenders, but I don't know how many people would actually do that. I might, just because I'm so inclined. So what's the big difference. So this, now we're into the Kniebundhosen, so you can see, I'll have to stand up. I'll show you the length. Now, these might not be the exact same size of trousers, waist-wise. I think, yeah, they're pretty close. So the length should be pretty, well, okay, so there's your regular. And then now, you can see how this goes past the knee, and the embroidery is farther down. But otherwise, the basic placket thing is the same. Sometimes the embroidery will be more nice, and sometimes it will be less nice. Look at the draw with the quality control. So again, you can order this separately and get ones that you think look better overall. But this one has a nice bit of tooling to it, in addition to just the regular embroidery. So you've got your little knife pocket here again that doesn't want to sit flat. Sit flat for the camera. And you've got this kind of rodeo rope look kind of going down. And here you've got, again, with this horizontal seam, but no contrast this time. A bit more rawhide here. So you have a little bit more to tie off. Crisscross in the back, and your satin brown such and such, and about the same leather, but not as rough feeling. So maybe they beat it up a little to make it more comfy. Oh, softer suede interior texture. We've got a little bit of a hem kind of thing going on here with this instead of the buttons at the bottom. So less articulation and whatnot down here around your ankles and calves. But I thought overall I would prefer this because, again, if we're having an actual autumn, I would want my legs covered more. And if we're having a hot summer, I might not still be able to wear the shorts. So I got some tags here. 100% real leather. Okay. Made in Pakistan. Okay. And so there's that. And we got locker loops again on the sides. And that's about it. I don't know what else I'm forgetting to mention or what not. Again, belt loops, but didn't come with the belt. Like I said, I had to buy the belt separately, or it came with that other guy, and it could be interchangeable. But again, this fairly flimsy, but it should be adequate to hold up if you're wearing it, for a couple, 2 or 3 days for, a party or whatever, or a costume party. But how long this would last for heavy duty daily use, I don't know. Like I said, you might have to look into finding some better suspenders, because overall I think this leather would stand up to a decent amount of around the house kind of chores and stuff. It's leather, so I wouldn't recommend like working on your car in it, but if you were doing like woodworking and that kind of thing, I imagine this would be a nice, protective garment if you were using it for that purposes or something along those lines. And then you've got like I said, the kind of contrast dye, black and brown kind of, instead of just giving you a color and letting it fade, they color it for you, right? To make you look more rugged or whatever. But this one being, like I said, I think this might be a fluke because the texture of this other one just is not nice at all. It's a lot more rough. I don't know if that's from storage or just the quality of the leather. This one has a nice supple feel to it. Possibly the best out of the bunch. But again, what you're going to get now, will it be that quality? Couldn't tell you. So that's the Lederhosen part of the video. Now I'm going to go into kind of the accessories part of the video. So I guess we'll start with the shoes. They had offered, or not offered rather, but like I said, some of the menus and pictures that I had found, some companies offer sets, I guess, or did at the time, you know, where you could get a shirt, a shoes, maybe a hat, that kind of thing, you know, like a little costume set, but again, upgraded from Halloween costume quality, I would hope. So it looked like they were leather suede shoes, similar kind of design to Birkenstocks, some of those closed toe Birkenstocks maybe, so you could maybe get away with those if you own those. What I came up with, like I said, for me was chukka boots, because I already have like a couple different pairs. This is the one color that I, you know, probably wouldn't wear because it doesn't match any of them, but I have a dark brown pair, I have a red pair, I have a green pair. So, you know, they might look a little not quite German, but again, suede to match with the other suede. You know, not quite to go with full grain leather, but the dark brown pair could-ish. Alternately, I think this mountain shoe from LL Bean, something like this might work because it's kind of chunky looking. And not an exact match of this particular color of leather, but it's got a robust look to it. You know, it looks more mountainy than boaty, right? So I think you could get away with this. If you wanted something a little more refined, like monk strap shoes would probably work, because then you have a buckle. This has the rawhide, so again, rawhide and rawhide, kind of similar, and then stitching, right? So if you can't find the German shoes or whatever they're called in your size, then apart from wearing sneakers, like a lot of people probably do, you could wear something like that. Then I found two styles of hats, and I don't know which one is more accurate, if one of them comes from one region and one of them comes from another region, like I said, but basically you have this kind of banding, a pinch crown. Then I put Italian, I think, in the description mostly because famously, like, Pinocchio wears Lederhosen, right, in the animated version anyway. So perhaps Northern Italy also wears something along the lines of this, but we've got a pretty wide brim in the front, but not much around the ears. So that's what I was talking about before. So like I said, you could probably get away with a hat like this if you had to, but wouldn't be completely accurate, but it's still not quite a trilby hat. And I think in one of my photos, I just grabbed a trilby hat because it was there, not because I intended to wear a trilby hat. But then here, I think, you know, I don't know, is this more Austrian with this donkey kick and the crown a little more elevated toward the back, or is this more Bavarian? I don't know which is which. The tag says Bavarian wool hat, so that's what we're going with. And so maybe this one is more Austrian. Don't know. Possibly, because there might be a difference. And then what the Swiss do. Yeah, this says Bavarian hat in the tag, though. German headwear outlet. Some other words that I can't read because there's too many shadows. Try and read that. German heritage. Okay. So I guess this donkey kick one is more German. And so there's that. Okay. And like I said, it's several months from now that I'll be wanting to wear any felt hats at all. Okay. So for shirts, most of the ones pictured are either white, and I'll come back to that, or checker, like just a 2-color check. So, you know, a plaid like this would probably be too busy. Although in a couple of my videos, I think I tried to see how much I could get away with like a colorful, like I think this is from Target or JCPenney or somewhere. But with that one placket or whatever, the green and the green, like, whereas on the other hand, something like this that just came from Duluth is pretty close to most of what was pictured in the advertisement photos. And I have a couple different colors of ones like this. Whereas I think something like this, the checkers are going to be a little too small to really convey. This is one that I definitely got to wear with kilts in a warm month, but I could still try it with the Lederhosen if I'm just wanting to wear something super lightweight. This is just a really not quite a herringbone cotton. Not herring, sorry, seersucker. Something like this plaid, I might be too busy, I would say. Again, it's kind of autumny colors, so I don't know, a guy like me might try and get away with it more or less. I'd be on the fence about something like this too, because this is even more nautical than foresty, I guess. Whereas something like this, I think, would work because from a distance, you won't even notice that it's plaid more than check. But this fabric's a little bit thicker, not quite flannel. So this is a great autumn shirt. I love wearing this in the autumn, but it's also long sleeved. It's in my photos. But then some flannels. This is not as bold as with the white, and the checks are a little bit bigger than that blue and white one. But again, if it's a colder month and I want a warmer fabric, this would be okay, I think. And that's about all I have to say about regular shirts. So these are regular button shirts that you could wear with a tie even. I had seen photos where guys were wearing them with ties. And of course there are jackets, but again, I wasn't going to go overboard and buy traditional full dress kind of. I'm not a local town official where I need to show up. So like I said, similarly, there had been some that were like, now this is called, you know, a Highland shirt for the, it just has regular buttons here for some reason. But this is meant for kilts because you don't have the buttons going all the way down to interfere with your top band and stuff. And this, but now you're dealing with a polyester blend, and this kind of stuff happened after only one washing because my washing machine is terrible. This is not a defect of the actual garment, but my washing machine really, yeah, did a number on this after I wore it once. But with this, you do get sunburned down an area of your chest that you might not expect to get a burn. And the large was an okay size. Extra large would probably be a little better fit on me, but not by a lot. But here you've got no bottom, just kind of a square hem bottom. But if you're wearing it with a kilt, it's plenty long enough to tuck in. Whereas with the Lederhosen, I don't know how long you would need it to be more. With the suspenders, though, you automatically have to tuck in your shirt. So if you're one of those guys who never, ever, ever tucks in his shirt and always has the thing hanging down, you can't do that. You can't leave your tails out. But this, like I said, is similar to this. I had seen, and here we have a collar, so we don't have a banded collar, which of course is kind of the Irish look. But also it leaves a lot more of your neck exposed to the sun. Similar to that, then we have this pirate shirt from Amazon. Now here we have more of a spandex kind of thing going on. So this is like pure Disney costume time. But we've got, a lot more of this kind of lacy junk and a little bit less lacy, less sunburn, and a tiny little collar. And basically, this is pirates, but it's also Robin Hood maybe, or borderline Robin Hood. But it's not quite Peter Pan because it doesn't have the tattered bottom, but again with a square outer hem, so enough to tuck, and then this kind of funky front placket thing that I've never seen anywhere else. But I think you could get away with this. Enough to tuck with a kilt, but with the Lederhosen again, it might be long enough, might not be long enough. Whereas something like this, it's more colonial. You don't want to wear this with Lederhosen with this kind of, and this again is a real spandexy kind of poly fabric, not traditional at all. I imagine that there's nicer cotton or linen options that I didn't bother to dig out. That again, I bought to wear with kilts that I could wear with the Lederhosen, but with the Lederhosen, again, I would feel a little more comfortable getting away with, casual shirts that I already have. Or, like I said, the most traditional pattern seemed to be this kind of gingham look. And what else is there to talk about? I guess that's about it for now. So yeah, if there's any questions, you can put them in the comments. If you feel cheated because I didn't show you the other, pairs or whatever, the black ones. Like I said, that I'll load up those photos soon.